we're going to control what we can control, and we're going to evaluate the market, and we're going to understand what the rules of the game are as best we can. And we're going to try to understand our audience and try to find our niche and get ourselves as smart as we can. And the idea of fretting over what one of the two big dogs are doing and what product they may be releasing and whatever that may be is very akin to, like, they just brought in another guy who is just playing at a higher level and is playing my same position. It's just like, what am I going to do about it right now? It's just like, we talk about it. It's just like, am I going to throw his stuff in the shower and am I going to like break his skates or something? It's like, no, it's just like, I'm going to go out there and do what I can do and control what I can control and work like hell for that space of what I can control. That's kind of how we view like a lot of the like happenings in our space. Big guys, small guys, whatever it may be. And even conversely, it's just like, all right, what can we use from what they're doing to learn and be better?
Let's discover the Cleveland entrepreneurial ecosystem. We are telling the stories of its entrepreneurs and those supporting them. Welcome to the Lay of the Land podcast, where we are exploring what people are building in Cleveland. I'm your host, Jeffrey Stern, and today we are talking with Jared and Brandon Smith, who more commonly are known around these parts as the NOOMA Bros. And the NOOMA journey for them began back as hockey-playing brothers who couldn't quite stand the sugar-packed artificial sports drinks that we have become accustomed to in the world of fitness. And so they founded NOOMA with a mission to combine the science of sports nutrition with high-quality, functional ingredients, organic, plant-based, and real without any added sugar, to make products that actually taste great and ultimately work. My favorite conversations have been those that explore the companies that work towards this goal of a triple bottom line, doing good and doing well at the same time. And NOOMA is no exception here, as a certified B Corp helping empower people to be the best and healthiest versions of themselves. Jared and Brandon really embody the spirit and values of NOOMA, and it was an absolute pleasure to hear their story. So pour yourself some NOOMA, do something active, and take a listen. So this is actually my first podcast with two guests. And whenever I listen to podcasts with two guests, I've always been frustrated when I can't tie the names to the voices of the people who are speaking. So I'd love to just start this on like a logistics note and shore that up for the benefit of everyone tuning in. So if you could both just please introduce yourselves, I think that would be the best place to start.
Sure. This is Brandon Smith, one of the NOOMA Bros. But Jeff, gotta be honest, I feel like most people just kind of view us as one person, and we're just kind of collectively known as the Bros. So if it kind of bleeds together, that's kind of just real life. So it'll be fine.
We'll let it blend.
And I'm Jared, Brandon's younger brother. Not sure if this introduction is going to help you in a couple minutes from now, but yeah, if there's any jokes or anything funny, it's coming from me. You're starting to veer off course, it's probably Brandon. So we'll leave it at that.
We'll keep that in mind.
Yeah.
Awesome. So I appreciate that. So to set the stage, I'd love to kind of start exploring before we kind of segue into NOOMA with your athletic backgrounds and the professional pursuits that you had there. I'd love if you could just share a bit about what that was like and how, in kind of the formative years building up to NOOMA, what that experience was all about.
Sure. Brandon speaking. We grew up in a sports house, and we were, from the time we were, hockey specifically, got our first like skating lessons when we were 3 or 4 years old, but we're just the kids who played on baseball, soccer, football, wrestling. That was just our family. And we were kind of, whatever it was, we were up to play it and trying our best. And then I feel like at our house, there were the backyard baseball and hockey in the basement where it was super competitive and people were coming over. And that was just the DNA of who we were from a very, very young age. And we're fortunate enough that we're able to play collegiately and then through, semi-professional levels. And I guess I feel like it was always just, so we're trying to get to the next level. Like when you're in, a teenager, I want to make the high school team. I want a high school team, I want to go play college. I want a college, I want to go play pro. And it was just a very carrot and stick next level, I feel like, of just trying to get to the next level of sports. And that was just a big part of who we were. And did, I guess the other part that is obviously very important, we did have parents that really set awesome examples of just who they were as people and their values, but also pushed us really hard to do well in the classroom. So I already used the analogy, but it was just like the rewards of doing homework or behaving were always more opportunities to play sports. And I think that was really who we were for a while.
And you kept getting that carrot at the end of the stick.
Yeah, we did for a long way. And in terms of our level of hockey, made it to what was most people understand that the baseball minor league system. So we got to AA. So there was a level between us and there was the NHL. So we made it pretty far. Weren't all the way. Had a lot of buddies that we played with over the years that did get there. And I feel like to anyone who would watch, it's really not perceptively different, but there was definitely a difference, and that, as was winding down for both of us, kind of laid the tracks for NOOMA.
Got it. And how did you kind of balance when you ultimately decided to start NOOMA, the kind of pro athletic aspirations you had with these entrepreneurial aspirations? Was building a company something you had a desire to do, or was what was the process there?
Yeah, so this is Jared here, and the NOOMA story, especially as it started, was definitely intertwined with that athletic background that Brandon just talked about. And so the idea for NOOMA started while I was actually still in college, and so actively playing, and Brandon was playing in the minors at the time, and it wasn't necessarily something that was a total eureka moment. We have to start this, drop what you're doing kind of thing. And so kind of to back up a little bit. So when we got to college, just as young guys, teenagers, whatever, we're obviously excited to kind of hit that milestone and hit that goal. But one of the things that we were really excited about was like getting free stuff. And so, free equipment, we've been paying for skates forever, whatever. These things cost $1,000 and we get them for free now. And this is all great. And part of that, though, was free sports drinks. And for me, as I started using them like a lot more than I ever had in the past, I started realizing I was getting like acid reflux from them. It wasn't really sitting well. I was getting like a burning in my throat and all this kind of stuff that I realized like I kind of want to take this out of my regimen and my routine. And so fast forward to going into my senior year in terms of, really kind of getting into that, like, did we think we were going to start this? Like, I honestly thought I was going to go work on Wall Street, going back to where you're from. And, I had an internship there in, private banking. Brandon was about to be taking the GMATs as he were kind of just both thinking, what's going to be happening next. Got home from New York. Took me a little bit, but very much realized that wasn't for me and that I didn't like what I was doing at all. Yeah. And then had a kind of ironically an entrepreneurship class my first semester of my senior year, taught by a guy from Shaker Heights. So I was out in Providence where my school was in Providence, but the teacher was from Shaker, and I loved the class. And really got me excited about just entrepreneurship in general. Didn't necessarily think I have to start a company. And then the idea for NOOMA happened 2 weeks after that class finished, or at least that idea kind of came up. And it was between our business partner, Chris, who's kind of, chairman of the board type, and the three of us. So it was the three of us to start. And the idea was, can you make a non-acidic, pH balanced kind of alkaline sports drink? And so for me, it was almost so then at this point I'm heading in second semester, senior year of college. I had the foresight enough to do enough work to have a really light load so I could, enjoy that last semester. But it also allowed me the time and the bandwidth to almost just add another course into my life that was NOOMA. And it almost was just taking this class again instead of like faking making a company. I was just like, all right, we're just gonna kind of work on this thing on the side. And I knew Brandon, minor league hockey life is, you're done with practice by 11 a.m. then everyone else is playing video games. I was like, I know you're not doing anything. Let's just start working on this. And it was just like, well, what's the point? Like, what's the point of it? What do we do? It's like, I don't know. This is just something that like seems fun for us to put our minds towards. And like, yeah, Brandon, like, as I try and I tell the story all the time, but it's just like, I don't think we really even like, we're like, all right, it's time to make this a company when I kind of, buzz you on the phone about like what we were working on in the early days.
For me, I remember too, like studying for the GMAT sucked. And it's just like reading these like just really just and sorry for anyone who's going through that right now, but it's just like super. It's just you're reading super dry testing books, and it just reminded me of taking the SATs and all. And it was painful. And I'm definitely not in terms of who I am as an entrepreneur. I would say we're probably not the guys who are just going to like put everything together in some perfect Excel spreadsheet that is like, there's our formula that makes this whole thing work. We have a lot more, I would say, we rely on a motor and there's a lot of grit to get things done most of the time. That isn't always the prettiest way. So, when I was given this kind of choice of like, do you want to like sit here and just stick on this, like studying for your GMATs, or do you want to like just start something that's going to be a lot more just, you're just going to start trying to put together a plan. You're going to Google stuff and just put it all in a doc, and we're just going to start banging ideas back and forth. That was so much more up my alley of how I just operate and think about problems that it quickly became, it was consuming. And I just couldn't put it down.
Yeah. On the consuming front, I don't know, whenever startup inspiration comes up as an idea, it just always seems to come back to this idea that people are like solving their own problems. And when you're like solving your own problems, it's just the best source of that early stage motivation.
Totally. And for me, that one season when we were just getting going on it, we were, particularly like the example of consuming for me, we were in the game 7 of like the semifinals of our league. And I stayed up till 3 a.m. working on what we considered our business plan. Was like who we were giving it to or turning it into. Like, I have no idea, but I just stayed up till 3 a.m. the night before like the biggest game of the season, because I just was consumed. And it was not that I needed like an aha moment that I wanted to do this, but in retrospect, and then even as this happened, it's just like, wow, I'm really into this, and it's how I wanted to be spending my time that night and going forward.
Yeah, and I was gonna say that just like the hustle and the grind definitely sucked us in without even knowing it, and also and the hustle and the grind in relation to it and in perspective of like trying to achieve a goal of just like that's how we were wired since, like Brandon was saying, since we were like 3 or 4. Was just like, okay, there's something that I like doing. Okay, you have to work hard to go achieve it. And like when we can get fairly, I don't want to say single track mind, but it's just like, we like that type of challenge and putting our effort in towards it. And a little bit of like, let's put the blinders on and do whatever it takes to achieve whatever that goal is that we really, really want. And starting NOOMA, that's what that filled for us. As I played 1 year of pro, and I knew that I was going to be only doing one, and I was working on NOOMA on the side because I could already see that filling that type of desire in my life of like what really gets me excited. It was already kind of trumping what my hockey flame was at that point. And maybe that was me just being like, shit, I reached the top of my playing career and there's no more going up. So I try to do something else to be great at. But we kind of realized that in ourselves pretty quickly, that it's just like, it really served and it's not even like a competitiveness. Like people always kind of think like, oh, you played hockey at a high level. It's just like, you must be so competitive. And it's just like, it's almost more of like an intrinsic motivation and competitiveness, as opposed to just like, let's go crush the competition. Like,
right.
We don't really have that mindset to how we operate.
Do you find yourself channeling some of the thinking, philosophy, mentality from hockey into the world of NOOMA?
Yes.
Yeah, all the time.
Yeah. And our hockey careers, I think, very much mimicked what as we see of just like, being a startup in the CPG space where we were, made it to college and made it through there into the minors, as everyone who gets to that level was the best guy on their high school team and probably every team they had been on to that point. And then you get there and you quickly realize that everyone else tells that same story, and you're no longer the top of the depth chart. And what our stories for just hockey were that we had to, as we got to those higher levels, just really change our games in terms of like, I had always played offense and now had to play defense, and now had to like, work, you're no longer the guy scoring goals, but you really have to play this other role. And neither of us were drafted in the NHL, but showed up, to training camps where there's NHL draft picks there and they're in the locker room next to you, and you're there, and all of a sudden, like, you think you get by the first round of cuts, and then there's like 3 more NHL bags that show up, and you're like, shit, this is not good. And I think the way of saying is like, we really realized how oftentimes just cutthroat a lot of these, that the sport and the industries are, but it was really in terms of how the person above us was making decisions, the coach, then AKA the grocery buyer. It's like, he's not cutting you because he has some personal vendetta against you. Like, he's here to paid to win games and here to pick the products they think are going to perform the best in their category. And at the end of the day, their job is on the line. So they're making the best decisions they absolutely can. And oftentimes when you're the person they're not choosing, and I think a lot of like why we were able to stick around in hockey for a while is that we did a good job internalizing the deficiencies in our game, and we're able to translate those to, I know I have to work on this type of thing if I want to stick around at this level. And I think that was a lot for just how we take what, oftentimes could seem like bad news, and just that you're inevitably going to hear no's and get turned down. And it really is, for us, I think the biggest thing with that hockey mentality and just sports in general was just getting us to really look in the mirror and understand how we could be better at making those types of improvements in our game, and really, not taking it personally that someone cut you, someone traded you, someone whatever. It's just like someone there is just inevitably looking at, and especially in the grocery space, just a lot of numbers and some data here. And of course they see some trends. They're trying to figure out where you fit in, but they have to make a call. And oftentimes, if it's not you, it's like you can be like, man, that guy's an idiot. This so-and-so brand probably came in and paid him a bunch of money to take our spot. Or you could like really try and think about what are the reasons we didn't hit the numbers, that even if there was so-and-so brand who came in with like the Brinks truck of money to get it on the shelf, like that's what the game is. So you're going to need to be able to perform at that level, or you're just not going to make it. And I think just understanding a lot of what what you would perceive as like the cold and the unfair realities of sports really show up a lot in that CPG space when you're talking about retail and stuff like that.
Yeah, it might be jumping the gun a little because I definitely want to still talk about the kind of the creation. But when you think about competition, right, I just feel like in retrospect, what you've built at this point seems obvious now. Like it's a good idea. Like there was clearly a need. You guys are finding the opportunity for growth and growing the business. But I feel like they're obvious, but only in retrospect. And when you have one of those good ideas, it could feel like you're too late. And I feel like coming into the space specifically that you guys are in, where you just have all these companies, there are a countless number of drinks, massive companies with massive market share. How do you prevent feeling like deterred by that, by the sheer scale of the competition early on? And it sounds like it's more motivating to you guys than it is deterring, but
I think it's probably 2 things. And first one, tying into what Brandon was just saying, is just like, we got ourselves into this, so don't even worry about like what the odds are. And that is just like, we're going to control what we can control, and we're going to evaluate the market, and we're going to understand what the rules of the game are as best we can. And we're going to try to understand our audience and try to find our niche and get ourselves as smart as we can. And the idea of fretting over what one of the 2 big dogs are doing and what product they may be releasing and whatever that may be, is very akin to like they just brought in another guy who is just playing at a higher level and is playing my same position. It's just like, what am I going to do about it right now? It's just like we talk about it. It's just like, am I going to throw his stuff in the shower and am I going to like break his skates or something? It's like, no, it's just like, I'm going to go out there and do what I can do and control what I can control and work like hell for that space of what I can control. That's kind of how we view like a lot of the like happenings in our space. Big guys, small guys, whatever it may be. And even conversely, it's just like, all right, what can we use from what they're doing to learn and be better? And what can we use, especially with the big guys, like what can we use against them and understand, what the marketplace is. And as we're developing it, is really understanding of just like how important it is to understand your audience and picking a niche. And when it is just like 99% of the general sports drink market is owned by two players. And, now there's a third who just is getting bought by one of the two. So it's just like, it's still just like two companies just, right, dominating it. And that it's just like, let them play their game. Do not try to outspend them and sign more athletes. It's just like, that's a bridge to nowhere. So it's just like, how can we develop our plan and our product to really service someone who's disenfranchised with what they're getting? And again, it's nothing that crazy to think about, but it's just like really understanding that, leaning into that. It took us a while, and we understood it in concept, even like from the start. That's what we were trying to do. But to put that into practice and what it really means to listen to your audience and then to execute on that and execute well upon that took us a while. But that's also just like, that's the recipe for us to be successful against some brands that have way more resources than us.
Got it. Yeah. Speaking of recipe, I would love to talk about the inception of that in the early days, because, and this had to be like my most naive, just like interpretation of thinking about how you guys must have started this thing. But I feel like for a lot of us, our first like real world experience comes like from starting a lemonade stand as children. And it's like, it's this rite of passage where the whole, you get the table on the street and you hone in and find the right balance of the freshly squeezed lemon juice and the sugar and getting the recipe right. And I have no idea how you guys went about this, but in the earliest days of NOOMA, what is the process of like actually creating a non-acidic drink? Like, how did you even approach that?
So for us, we aren't food scientists, or we don't have grandma's secret sauce recipe kind of thing that we were leaning into. So in the beginning, it was really just tapping into, and so therefore knowing that we weren't going to be able to produce this even for ourselves with what the idea was internally. And so it was just like really tapping into our network, into Google and whatever, and just figuring out like, okay, like what are the first steps to doing like what this, like to bringing this idea to fruition. Luckily, we did have enough in the network, and it was really crude in the beginning, and we were definitely, getting ingredients from the wrong place and all that kind of stuff. But it was just like, we were just getting initial prototypes. And again, I was still in college, and we're getting, unmarked bags of white powder sent to the hockey house delivered and just like, it tastes terrible. And it's just like, I'm telling all my buddies know about it. And they're like, you want to try this again? You want to try this white powder? Like, yeah, sure. And it's just like, so that's like how it started and how it's going.
In the early days, so much of that too was just like, and it's probably something that said how it's going is probably not even that different. It was just like, what minerals are acidic? What minerals are alkaline? And just be like, okay, so maybe we can use some of these things and not some of these things. And then you start building on a lot of those. For us, there were incredibly basic queries that we were trying to build it off of. And I've said it like many times.
Basic? Was that a PH joke?
Oh yeah, it wasn't. But it was a lot about just like, there's so many things we just didn't know that we just Googled our way into just finding out enough about, and then to eventually come to someone who, generally was more qualified with a couple letters behind their name, that we could bring some idea that like, okay, so I know this is kind of out there, but can you kind of validate what this is? And that was what a lot of what we leaned into.
I would say then as it evolved, kind of even going back to that question of just like, how do we compete against especially the big guys? And it's just like getting an initial prototype out there, understanding it's probably not perfect, and then really trying to figure out what our audience cares about. And that's that's really how we've evolved our product and got a lot smarter about like what, not only just like the science behind it, but like what should be in there in terms of what makes sense for what people are asking for. And so, long story short, like we quickly pivoted off of the focal point being a non-acidic and pH balanced sports drink, and really got ourselves into using organic and real ingredients that have high functionality and no added sugar. And that's the umbrella, and that's the box we play within. And from there, we're able to kind of then, figure out how can we solve different needs for people's different states in their fitness journey. And, we've launched some other products around that, but that for us in terms of like actual formula.
As we settled into that and understood it better, by, really defining those parameters, and then specifically for us, understanding that where we were going to put ourselves, we weren't going to go out there and say like, you're going to bench more, you're going to run a faster 40, you're going to jump higher, and here's the paper and the study we did that proves that. Because we decided that wasn't going to be our route, and we were going to build upon other food trends that we could really just validate by just no added sugar is a big thing. Wow, NOOMA has no added sugar. I would say it's almost like hiding in plain sight. But the juxtaposition on some of those things really, at the end of the day, played into people who didn't need to have a nutritionist validate this idea. It was fewer ingredients. They're all like organic coconut water, things I know and understand. That the actual figuring this out and the optimal level of what that's supposed to be, we understood that probably wasn't going to be our strength. So we really found a market and a way to make a product that could work for that type of consumer, where they didn't really care if it was just like, does this make me run faster? Like, I care that there's no added sugar, and positioning yourself that way to really take advantage of who you are.
Right. And it seems like your whole initial like go to market strategy, building on the product strategy, is very much in the same vein of just like, makes a lot of sense. I know you guys at this point have a pretty like dominant presence here in Cleveland. Athletic facilities. I see you guys everywhere over, different fitness places. But was it in the early days just, going direct to those places where you knew the kind of people that, again, going back to the idea of solving your own problems, that, this was a product that you wanted yourself, finding those people that would resonate with?
Yeah, totally. And even before we launched, we were, from like pre-launch surveys and everything, understanding that there was a much more addressable market outside of typical bat and ball in sports, in terms of just like, it's just like, wow, like we have our highest rated, user profile are yogis. It's just like, that's kind of saying something. And no one that's 18 really cares about what we are like proposing here. And these just like, even in the pre-launch surveys. And so what we really then decided to do was to build a brand more and more towards this audience that is just like, for us, it's a shift in mentality of, I'm proactively here at this yoga, CrossFit spinning boutique fitness studio because I love the benefits of it. And presumably I like putting products in my body that help me on that journey. And as opposed to trying to think about like, are you trying to get just the masses where it's just like, this is a diet drink and I'm kind of just like, I begrudgingly go to the gym and don't really necessarily care. I just know I should be doing it. And then also knowing that like, we're not targeting kids. Like they don't really care. They care about seeing LeBron James on the promotional. So that's what really guided us in the beginning. And that kind of, I think intuition was pretty spot on. And then in terms of like that go-to-market initial strategy is just like, we were just out there so much, and any workout in Cleveland, circa 2013 to 16, like there was a good chance if it was like a class of public, like we were going to try to find a way to get there, or like pretty much every studio had seen us with a cooler full of NOOMAs, and it was fantastic for us to again really get in front of what we thought our target audience was and just listen, learn, see how it operates, see how people use it, understand what they care about, they don't always know you're the founder, and they'll tell you, some people will tell you regardless, but like, it's great, honestly, when they don't know, and they can be that absolutely candid and honest. And like, that was really just the incubation of our product.
Yeah.
Is that channel.
And I would say like the slang term for that, and you know, it wasn't the initial grocery stuff. It's just man in a van. And it was just literally the NOOMA bros and the NOOMA van. And for people who have been here for a while, you know, you probably saw it around 271, 480 and 90 over there. Like it was just cruising around. Like we were out like doing, like showing up. And I would say my plug, bringing it home to Cleveland too, is, you know, obviously we were from here. And when we were thinking about, you know, as we were finishing hockey and like, where are we going to go to do this? And the partner that we work with is from Southern California. And he was saying like, guys, we're in like the fitness cap, you know, fitness and, you know, healthy diets and lifestyle. Like, this is it. We should be launching this here. And I think we just knew, we pushed back, and I don't even know totally why we were so like wanted to dig our heels in so hard, but we just believed, and I think had this like gut that like, if we're going to do it, we'll just be better in our own hometown. And that was totally right. And so many of those places that Jared was talking about, every yoga, spinning, CrossFit studio, or any group that was, you know, like a run club here, we didn't know any or many of the owners, but one, in a town this size, you're usually like 1 or 2 degrees of separation away from anyone you really want to meet. And for the cold calls that we did a shitload of them anyways, we didn't even go through that. I was just like, hey, we're 2 young guys trying to start this company. We're from the area. We have this healthy drink. Can we come pass out, you know, some free samples to your class? And everyone was like, hell yeah, sounds good. You know, I'd love to have you. So, you know, the Midwest Nice Plug or whatever it is that we had a lot of those just barriers to entry that if we would have chose trying to go to SoCal, I don't even like where would I even start and who am I going to call? And then when they answer, you know, when I cold call them or they answer me, like, what am I going to tell them about why they should let me, you know, come into their place and pass out products. So we used that to our advantage, and it was really important.
Yeah. So you guys were not sacrificing health for the building of this business in the early days.
No.
Drank enough NOOMA.
Yeah, practicing what you preach. That's awesome. I would be remiss if I didn't ask you about NOOMA, like the word, what, like the brand, and what is the meaning of NOOMA, and where does that come from?
How we named it was actually a pretty good reflection on us already kind of picking up where this thing should be headed. So like initial names were, one, we were really focused on the alkalinity and non-acidic. So it was like 7A, like a pH of 7, and then refuel, REPHUEL. And we were already feeling this, just like, this feels too much like a sports drink that's targeted towards people who drink sports drinks. We're trying to make a sports drink for people that don't care about sports drinks anymore or are dissatisfied with them. So we shouldn't sound like one. And we went through a ton of names. We eventually got to the point where it's just like, let's just own a name. And it was one of our business partner consultants at the time just had the, like, let's make an acronym, and NOOMA stands for No More Artificials. So obviously it's a little fudgery with the double O and whatnot, but you know, we like that in terms of, one, just the sound of no. We didn't want a negative to start the brand name. Right. And then as we were kind of getting designs made, really liked it with the infinity, and for us, that idea of the continual journey and balance, maybe marketing fluff, but we actually feel very strongly on that. And even, you know, our mission statement of helping and inspiring people to be the best, healthiest version of themselves is just like, that's a journey. And we call it, you know, the pursuit of the ultimate you. Whatever that is, it's just like, it's not about winning championships, and it's not running your fastest 40, like Brandon said. And so that infinity, even so than No More Artificials, that probably means even more to us about what the brand stands for, and as it's evolved, and what the name and our logo really kind of embody.
Yeah. And was the URL available?
Not NOOMA. I forget what. Yeah, we weren't really sure. So it's Drink NOOMA is what it is, and we weren't exactly sure what to do, and just kind of saw at that point there still weren't a ton of brands doing the like Drink NOOMA or like
Yeah,
Bar Life or something like that or whatever. But yeah, we weren't ready to pay for it either, so we're now stuck with the handle and all social, or the URL and all social handles are all Drink NOOMA now, and so it is kind of it is what it is, and it's just like people just like, hey, we got Drink NOOMA here today to pass out their drinks. It's like, well, it's NOOMA, that is a drink, but whatever. So yeah.
Yeah, I want to build on that, the vision and kind of the higher level goal and what you're working towards, and just kind of first set the stage. Like, where is NOOMA today, and where do you see it going? What is that impact that you ultimately want to have?
In terms of where we are today, we are, as a lot of brands have, had to really rethink our channel strategy and what we're doing to get our product into consumers' hands, and what's the smartest way to do that. For lack of a better term, we're just really leaning into e-commerce a lot harder than we ever had before. And frankly, we were already kind of on that shift before the pandemic, but it's just a big focus for us for a multitude of reasons. And really driving into that is what we're doing. And it's part of our strategy of launching new products and how we're showing up in terms of, how we're marketing and using social media and whatnot to drive trial and all that. That is just like a lot of that is shifted towards a direct to consumer model in the area. It's not like we're, especially like in the area, Cleveland, even just the region, we aren't like pulling ourselves out of any retailers, and still definitely like, especially in the Cleveland area, just like so much love for again, giving us the chance to get on the shelves there and still continue to be awesome accounts for us, and hopefully them too. But kind of state of the union of where we're at in terms of the bigger picture is really leaning into that. And we also see that too, business wise, as we can develop strong. And the reason, so I should say, one of the reasons that we really, really like this model, it allows us to build stronger and deeper relationships with our customers. And what that can do, though, then is help us be a lot stronger as we expand outside and again, expand outside of the region where everyone doesn't know the NOOMA Bros story and hasn't seen the mystery mobile with us with a ton of drinks in the back kind of thing, right? So it's just like the more that we can really lean into that and build a national brand presence, and that takes a lot of work, as we've realized over and over again, that is just like, that helps us as we kind of chart things out of where we think we want to go in the longer term.
A lot of our understanding of just our business was understanding just a channel strategy concept of the dollars we were making selling on our website to a gym or yoga studio, and then into retail. Specifically, as in accounts outside of our market where we, the places where we let the story off, just like, I see you in like every gym. I was like, yeah, that helps a lot in retail. And when it's,
Yes.
it's someone's, people they're not discovering the brand there. And I had a founder from another from a bar company told me this, and it's so spot on, and it took us a while to learn, but he told us that grocery is either going to be an expensive acquisition or a profitable retention place for you. And for us, we've had really seen in Cleveland where you said we were in every gym and studio and place. So when we showed up on shelves, it wasn't that enough people knew us that in terms to be able to create the sales velocities that we needed, we were able to do it because we were showing up to the turkey trot with a zillion coupons and just passing them out to everyone.
Right.
And things like that could drive sales. And we're so bullish on being able to do those types of things, because the further you start getting outside of, show up in, like I said, somewhere you think it'd be awesome, like show up in Denver or wherever food place that's supposed to be like really on trend, they don't know us. So we show up on a shelf and it's going to be tough sledding. And we do know that, at least with the way this industry works right now, definitely the lion's share of dollars and volume goes through traditional brick and mortar. But your ability to actually compete there and get in and start swinging at the big boys. I think back to the beginning, the early questions are just like, you can't just expect that people are just going to like mosey down the aisle and like, oh, this sounds nice. I was going to buy this, but I'm really in a discovery mode and I'll look at the label and I'll try it. Like, it doesn't happen. People know what they're getting before the store. And if we're trying to flag people down in the store on the first time, it's tough sledding. So just really thinking about really reading and understanding the story of what has made us successful and making sure that we stick to that as we look to grow. And for us, that really means that a lot of the grocery growth is going to be back burner.
And then in terms of just kind of brand vision, I think some of the stuff that we're excited about is, again, looking back at what our audience gets excited about from us. And it's just like, okay, so how can we do a better job of telling the NOOMA brand story? And I think people really resonate with the entrepreneurial, the hustle, the brothers in a family founded company. And then, so there's that whole bit. And then another big piece is highlighting and doing more with our sweat and do good. And just something that, it's not like it's a formal thing, but, a department, quote unquote, of our company focused on obviously the charitable efforts of, we do so much in this industry, and we fully recognize that we are tapping into two markets that are for affluent people. It's like organic and healthier and more expensive drinks and food and beverage, and boutique fitness. And it's just like, okay, so what can we do? And it's just like, and I think for us, it's just kind of just, as Brandon said, the parents giving us those good morals. Is just like, there's the disconnect of, we're trying to make difference in people's lives, but we're kind of targeting people that have a lot of privilege. And so it's just like, our Sweat and Do Good is all about how can we enable people that may not have that access for whatever reason to either products like ours or fitness and like those awesome benefits of group fitness or any type of activity. It's just like, how can we help and support those types of causes? And, even the plug for our two partners that are both local, ZenWorks, they provide yoga and mental health training for at-risk youth throughout schools across the city. And then ASPO, they help people with disabilities, get into athletics, and they have teams and leagues. And Brandon and I went and played sled hockey. And it's like, those are the things that like we want to do a better job, one, storytelling about, and then growing our efforts. And that's really just like, again, where we see a little bit of that triple bottom line flywheel. Is just like, the more that we can grow our products and our reach and smartly do that in profitable ways, that allows us to then continue to tell and expand our story, which is hopefully a good story and one that people can get behind. Well, then all of a sudden they can buy more products that can help us tell our story better and kind of move forward like that. And so, it's definitely been the dream and the mission for a long time. When we started, it was always about more than just drinks. We can feel ourselves getting closer and closer kind of to being able to make it more, to take it from just an at-home backyard story to something that can be a little bit bigger. And so we're excited about how can we work relentlessly to allow ourselves that ability to grow that story and to tell it to a lot more people.
And with some of that, I think some of the things that we've found that is authentic to us and made a lot of sense, I guess, with where the world was last year with one of our partners in particular, like pretty much like every, nonprofit and charitable organization last year was tough on a lot of people. So they were, looking for ways to raise money. And it's also like, we can't get anyone together, but we can't. So like, this is just, every option sucks. So Jared and I, and Tuss was like, okay, what are the things we could do? And we did through our promoted it through our social and put it out there, where we had a NOOMA Bro Olympics where we were doing different fitness activities and chugging drinks. And the what we did was we had our fans just bet on who they think would win, and we donated it all and to the charity. And people on our website were able to, who donated could get a half off on their next order. So it was a win-win for everyone. But it also just told the story of just who we are. It was just like, yeah, we're fitness guys trying to help these guys out. This is kind of the only way we have. It was a very, I would say, crude. It was just like, it wasn't pretty. It was like, we have this, that the NOOMA gym is in the back of our warehouse, and our mom was a gym teacher. So we got a lot of their old stuff and then have pieced together our own. So it's a glorified home gym. So we're like, let's just do a thing here and people can bet on it. And just to us, but that's the story really of just who we are. We're just guys who work out in a warehouse who are trying to, and we're finding ways that could, support our partners and just trying to lean into who we are. So I think just there's a lot of that behind the scenes of us that is just a cool part of the story.
Yeah, I'll pull on the NOOMA Bros thread for a bit and love to just get your perspective on, like what are the things that you feel like you've been able to do as a consequence of building this as brothers that, maybe other co-founders, where it's always one of the most challenging things in a startup is, finding the right person to align with and build this thing together, that's allowed you to do. And just kind of the dynamics of that, personally, I have two younger brothers, and I've always kind of wanted to start something with them as well. So what would your advice be then? Yeah,
it's definitely something that we always get asked on, and for good reason. I generally think that there's not much middle ground of how it goes. It's just like, yeah, I started a business with my dad. It's like, how's it going? It's like, it's just okay. Like, it's like, there, you get along pretty well.
Not a lot.
Yeah, there's just like, no, we're at each other's throats. We're like, this is awesome kind of thing. And for us, we're still here. So at least from my perspective, it has been awesome. And, I think that what we really understood going into it, and particularly as we first had heated conversations, is just like, we grew up so close, and frankly, I'm 18 months younger than Brandon, and I was basically just following in his path, and anything that he did, like, I was trying to do. And so it was just like, we were always doing the same exact things and always playing, and somehow we never really actually got in that many fights, despite how competitive it all was. So like, we had this like lifelong like bond of always being together and having this like super high, again, like, it's not even like, I guess, like competition, and just like working in like kind of like high stress situations, but not being at each other's throats. And so then, like, as we transitioned into business, it turned out to be such a competitive advantage for us, understanding that it's just like, I do not have to sugarcoat anything. One, I can read when you are, so it doesn't even matter. So you should just tell me. But it's just like, we know we're all trying, we're here right now, we're an X, we're trying to get to Y, right? I know that all you're doing is trying to give me your thoughts on the absolute smartest way to get to Y, to get to that goal. And even if it's completely different than what I'm thinking, and it kind of pisses me off that you're not understanding how I think we should get there, it's just like, you're not trying to sabotage this whole thing for the hell of it. Like, you're saying it because it's what you believe. And like, having that like really deep understanding that everything comes with a place of really good intent, that it comes with a place of love, criticism, praise, whatever. It just like, that communication and trust that we're able to have in each other is just like, it just ends up making nearly everything work, and making situations, again, not that they don't get heated, not that, I probably lose my temper a lot more than Brandon, so it's a good thing he's the older brother. But we're always able to be like, all right, I was sorry. Yeah, that's how I get. This is what I think we should be doing. Yeah, I know. And like, whatever that case may be, it's just like, because we have such a deep, just like, understanding of where each of us is coming from and trust in each other, that, again, it turns out to be such a big competitive advantage for us.
I feel like I hadn't heard this word until, I don't know, maybe the last 6 months, and I heard it 10 times a day now. It's just like, the alignment is just, it's perfect, where we are very much on the same page of, wanting to, of how we're trying to get there together, have the same pain points, same and I don't know if it ends up being too much groupthink on some things, but just I think we have really tried to just the values of what we've made our company, and like the last, Jared was kind of talking around it, but productive honesty is one of the core values of our company, of just being able to really just put it out there of where you're coming from. And that has really made it where we didn't have to, there really wasn't a testing out period where I had to figure out, like, is this guy on the same page as me? It just had always been there. And fortunately for me too, you should always, if you can, pick a co-founder that's smarter than you. So I lucked out on that one.
We all have our talents.
Yeah, because I can just bring the hustle and he can bring the smarts. So, and they work. But also too, just having for me, just a ton of trust too, and frankly, just Jared's abilities. I feel like, if I were in a family business where we're working together, it's like, if deep down you thought that, like, I love him, but he's just not like the smartest or whatever. I don't know if he's going to get through this. Like, I don't know, like in my mind, and it may even be too much, just like, why do I need to like check your work? Like, what am I going to add to this? Like, you already, anything that I could possibly think of, you've thought of that, and then 3 scenarios off of that. So I just have so much trust, not only in him as a person, but just his ability. And I think that's just so important to, probably an extra level too, when you're working with a family member. Just like, do I like them as a person? Are we going to get along? But also, do I always just notice, like, man, that guy, he can never communicate his ideas to the people, and it's like they never get them. And I'm always in my head about that. Like, I never have any of those types of worries. So in terms of the bond and the trust and just where we are, it truly is like a 1 + 1 = 3, where we can just really just lean on each other so much that, like, this thing, like, you got, and I don't have to worry about it. I know it's going to be taken care of better than I could ever do. Got it. And then I have my side, and we'll ask questions, we'll have discussions, and if I need feedback, we'll do it. But, like, if he trusts I can do my end, and we can just lean on each other to take care of that kind of stuff. And you don't need to babysit and just make sure that, like, oh, were you going to turn that in on time or not? It's just like, it's done.
Yeah, that's awesome to hear. I'll kind of wind it down here. Just a real softball question here, but what are your favorite flavors? Because I have my own opinions about this, but
yeah,
I'd love to get your guys' perspective.
For our sports drink, this is funny. We'll probably share all the same answers for this too. I go between chocolate mint and lemonade, and then our pre-workout, the energy drink, I like the pineapple mango the most, and then I like the lime. I was gonna say I like those two, my favorites. I can let you have that one. And then I like the lime of our hydration mix. So of our 3 product lines, those are my favorites.
And for me, generally, anything with caffeine is cool. That's my direction.
And then we'll tell you about the new product that's launching next time. So look out for that.
Yeah.
Coming soon. A couple weeks here. Yeah. 4th product line from NOOMA before the end of next month. So.
Right on. I will say the chocolate mint is my favorite as well.
So yours, yeah. So people are afraid to try it because it's a chocolate mint sports drink, which is you'd be afraid to try it.
Then you try it, and you're like, wow.
Yeah. It's a little interesting case study on just that phenomena that outside of Cleveland, it does terribly in grocery stores, where it's just like, again, like we aren't able to like let people know about it really well before they're there, but through our website and Amazon and our wholesale business, it's our top selling sports drink SKU, where it's an audience of people who have in general have like tried them more and have tried all the flavors. A lot of people come through a variety trial pack that it's literally the worst in retail and the best on all other platforms that kind of have longer.
Bringing that back a little full. I think that was probably one of our biggest fights at one point. At one point, I was just bringing the numbers and having a conversation with Jared about, about where chocolate was about it and just where it was in retail, and just saying like, I know we love it, but is there is there enough here to carry it? And we're trying to hit minimum runs. And no, it's just like it moves so much slower and it's going to age out. And we're having all these things. I know we think it's good, but we didn't really stick with this. And it was one of the biggest fights we had. And thankfully,
yeah,
I caved.
Lost my shit.
I lost that one. He won it. It's here. It's not going anywhere. And just
I'm glad Jared won that one.
And as we've grown,
we all are.
Yeah, it's not going anywhere. So
that's awesome. It's like the hidden gem, which will be my cheesiest segue to talk about hidden gems of Cleveland, which is the collective collage that we are building of everyone who's come on, just things that are not necessarily your favorite thing in Cleveland, but that other people may not know about.
Okay, people know about it, but it's not, in your face every day. Metro Parks. And being from Cleveland my whole life, going through the winters makes you really appreciate when it's nice out. And throughout these months when, and also, now with kind of where NOOMA is, like we actively get outside, try to find a Metro Park, try to find somewhere where we can either take fun fitness photos, build content, but also just on our own. And I've talked about this nonstop. Just like get outside and work out and do something outside and sweat outside because, we all know there's 6 months of the year where you can't even think about it. So when I can get it in like that and be outside, and there's so many Metro Parks that are amazing. And I feel like the one that I didn't even realize was right by us, but the Euclid Creek one by our warehouse, it's amazing. And it was never something that I was thinking about. I need to get there, and now I do. And the other day, like I put on my rollerblades and rolled the whole way around it. It was awesome.
I would say mine's a place. This is a reflection on them that also just kind of what we do. So I would say Cork and Bottle, the restaurant. I don't know if have you ever been there, Jeff?
I have not been.
Okay, yeah. So a little bit of a hole in the wall. It's on the east side. It's right by Hillcrest Hospital. Yeah. And great little watering hole. Such amazing prices. It's just like, it's so Cleveland. The food is great. But we really love it though, is because, before the pandemic, when we were on a men's league hockey team that we take all too seriously. And then, definitely have that rep, but we win championships. So that's when it is about winning championships, is men's league. But then after the games, we'd go to the Cork and Bottle, and it's like $2 Coronas in the summer, and you're getting hot chicken. What is it? Cheat meal, because we are generally vegan, but the
once a week
spicy garlic parm chicken wings. Yeah, we'll have a cheat meal with that. It's just like, that is it. That's living right there. So that's my hidden gem.
Right on. We'll definitely be checking it out. Well, Brandon, Jared, I really appreciate you guys coming on and telling your story. All right, I really appreciate it. It's awesome to hear.
It was fun.
Yeah. Well, thanks for having us, Jeff.
Yeah, thanks, Jeff.
Yeah. If folks have anything that they would like to follow up with you about beyond just tracking down the van, where's the the best place for them to find you?
You can just you can email either of us, Brandon at DrinkNOOMA, Jared at DrinkNOOMA, or just head to the website drinknooma.com, contact us form, and it'll find its way.
Brandon's regular.
Jarred.
Jared's a 2R Jared, so it'll bounce back at you if you spell it with one. So
well, awesome. Thank you guys.
For sure.
That's all for this week. Thanks for listening. We'd love to hear your thoughts on today's show, so shoot us an email at layoftheland@upside.fm, or find us on Twitter at podlayoftheland, at TheTagan, or at Sternhefe, Jefe. We'll be back here next week at the same time to map more of the land. If you or someone you know would make a good guest for our show, please email us or find us on Twitter and let us know. And if you love our show, please leave a review on iTunes. That goes a long way in helping us spread the word and continue to help bring high-quality guests to the show. Taken Horden and Jeffrey Stern developed the Lay of the Land podcast in collaboration with the Up Company LLC. At the time of this recording, we do not own equity or other financial interests in the companies which appear on this show unless otherwise indicated. All opinions expressed by podcast participants are solely their own and do not reflect the opinions of Founders Get Funds and its affiliates, or Actual and its affiliates, or any entity which employs us. This podcast is for informational purposes only and should not be relied upon as a basis for investment decisions. We have not considered your specific financial situation, nor provided any investment advice on this show. Thanks for listening, and we'll talk to you next week.